Hello everyone, this is the CRT Productions and these are two gaming machines from around 2009. This is an Asus G51VX and this is a custom built gaming PC that I built in a previous video, which you should go and check out if you haven't already. They are both similarly spec'd. This one has a 3 GHz Core 2 Duo 880-400 and this one has a 2.8 GHz Core 2 Duo T9600. They both have GTX 260s. Of course, this one has the mobile version of the 260, the 260M. That one has a regular GTX 260. They both are running on spinning hard drives right now, both SATA 2 hard drives, and they both have 4 GB of RAM, DDR2 of course. So I'm just going to kind of have fun today. Trying out these two systems from around the same period. I want to try some games that people would have wanted to play in 2009, including, of course, some games from 2008 and one very particular game from 2007. If you've been following the Discord, you'll know I had a little bit of trouble getting Crysis to work, but of course that will be the main thing. Can these two systems run Crysis? So we'll find that out today. I finally got it working. If you buy Crysis on Steam, there's a chance it might not work, but I got it to work by contacting EA support, which was a lot of fun, and today we're finally going to get to try this out. So if you enjoy the video, be sure to leave a like and a subscribe. You can see much more content like this in the future. Well, let's see what these things can do. Well, while I have the desktop finishing up some updates and such, I thought I'd run through the games really quick that we have planned for today. You may be a victim of software counterfeiting, don't mind that. So I have a few games here, not too many, from around the 2008-2009 time period. Plus, of course, Crysis, which is from 2007. I also have Team Fortress 2, which is from 2007, but of course very popular, 2008, 2009. All the way up until the current day, as a matter of fact. I also have Grand Theft Auto 4, very big title, 2008. Fallout 3 from 2008. I have Saints Row 2, which was a kind of a notoriously PC killing game. It is pretty poorly optimized for the desktop. I also have Counter-Strike Source, which I think is from 2007 as well, but again, of course, very popular. So it's not all of the games from 2009, 2008. There were a couple other games that I wanted to try for this, but I ran into so many problems with these games. It's been very frustrating to get them going nowadays because for some reason it seems that nowadays we have to have 15 launchers to launch these games through. But anyway, these are the games we have today. If you like this and you want to see more videos like this, I can see me try more games. I can always do that in the future. But this is what we got today, and we'll just kind of see what kind of frame rate we're getting, and you know, general performance. I'm not going to go too hardcore deep into this as far as really benchmarking these systems. Of course, I have these two systems here, a desktop and a laptop, which are not comparable systems. I am aware of that. But yeah, I know a lot of people will get angry at me for comparing a desktop to a laptop when those two really aren't comparable to each other, but we're going to be doing it anyway. So at this point, you should probably already know we're going to try Counter-Strike Source first. So it might be a little difficult to see on this laptop especially, but I do have MSI Afterburner pulled up with the on-screen display on the screen, and but yeah, the monitor is 1080p. Both monitors are 1080p, so we'll be playing all these games at that resolution today. So let's go ahead and get connected to a server here on Counter-Strike Source. Okay, so let me check how our GPU temperature is right now. It's 103 degrees, which is not optimal. and it says it's a 0% usage, so I guess that's not working. But CPU's at 60 degrees, and we're getting around 100 FPS right now. Let me, I wasn't really paying attention to it before in the heat of battle, but with players on the screen, we're getting about 75 FPS, I guess. I have no idea what's happening right now. 50. A lot of player models on the screen, we're getting about 50. Are these bots? What's going on here? I think these are all bots. Anyway, we were getting about 50 FPS there in the heat of battle, and oh, we got a shotgun now. Let's go try that. Well, it looks like we were averaging about 75 FPS maybe. One time it dropped down to about 52 FPS. We were getting frame times all over the place, like 8 to 18. That bounces all over the place. I'm going to close this because it's very distracting. So Counter-Strike Source, of course, runs fine on this old laptop. It's from the time period, a couple years after the game's release, so it should run it just fine. Let's try it on the desktop now and compare those numbers. Okay, so this is the server that I usually join on. Unfortunately, I don't have any speakers plugged up to this. It's fortunate for me because I can actually speak and think, but unfortunate for you because I'm sure the audio is probably entertaining. This is what I'm used to, though. This server is a little less weird. It's the standard deathmatch server. And obviously on this, I have actually played this on this desktop before quite a bit. I got a little carried away one night. Kind of spent all night playing Counter-Strike Source on this old desktop. But anyway, so I have everything set up, my sensitivity, so I can actually play it a little bit here instead of with a wireless mouse. What it looks like right now, we're in spawn. Our frame time is at about 4 to 5, so it's much better on the frame time. Obviously, frame rate is well over 200. It does dip down when you see players on the screen, so there you go. There's an explosion. It's down to like 130. Kind of surprised it's set that low. I probably have it on max settings at the moment, so. Sometimes we even surprise ourselves, don't we? Our GPU temperature is pretty stable at 67 degrees. CPU's 48, and they're both at around 60 to 70% usage, it looks like. I'm not having as good a time as I usually am here. Looks like there are some real people here, as there usually are. Yeah, and it's not having as good a time as I usually am as far as the kills are concerned. Probably because I'm not playing with a track point. Maybe I should have played with the trackpad on the laptop. Well, maybe next time. But, of course, Counter-Strike Source is perfectly fine here. And, yeah, let's move on to something maybe a little more demanding. Alright, so next up is another relatively easy game to run, Team Fortress 2. We got to try it. It's from 2007. It's something you would probably want to play at the time on these computers, but I thought it would be reasonable to point out my settings for the laptop are all on the recommended settings. So model detail is high, texture detail is high, and shader detail high. I'm not going to max everything out because I think that might be a little too much for this thing. It's already running. Supposedly, it says 103 degrees. That seems a little bit hot, just to say the least. But I don't doubt it because this thing is extremely hot. It doesn't have the best cooling system. Alright, this is perfect. This is a randomizer server, so there'll be a lot of chaos going on, which is what we want. Alright, here we go. What do we have here? This is randomizer, so it's going to be a little goofy. Gameplay footage itself. But right now I can already feel a lot of stuttering on this laptop. This is again a first-person shooter, so you'll want high frame rate as you can. So really, you probably turn the settings down further. But I do want to give some form of comparison between the laptop and the desktop here, even though it's not fair, I know. But right now we're getting like 50, 60 FPS, which is okay. Frame time is like 20, 16, 6. It's bouncing all over the place. In Spawn, we are getting, let's see, if we just stare at the wall and Spawn, we get like 78 FPS. Now it's going up to 114. Alright. Let's see, oh, I'm invincible now, so that's good. Right now we're getting 27 FPS. Wow. That's pretty bad. They figured out my secret. GPU is at 98, 99 degrees Celsius, that is. Let's see if we can get a kill here with this. There you go. CPU is at 66 degrees, which isn't terrible. Let's see what we can do here. And our CPU is being used about 80%. I imagine the GPU would be at 100%, but for some reason it's reading 0%. Well, TF2 runs a little bit rough. So the frame time there, right, the last second was like 20. The frame time, of course, shows you kind of how much the game is going to be stuttering, and I can feel stutter here and there. It's not unplayable. Actually, I could play this with this frame rate and this frame time. Again, you can see the stutter just a little bit here and there, but it's not terrible. I've seen worse. Let me try to figure out what do I have here. Oh no. There you go, have that. Oh, there's a turret. Let's see if we can get you. There we go. Enjoy these sounds. See if I can get the engineer here. There you go. And the turret is taken care of. There you go. Oh boy. Alright, they got me. My hand's starting to stick to the thing now because it's getting so hot. You just feel it all over the whole laptop, especially in this area here. Yeah, it actually feels like a hairdryer. So I'm going to go ahead and quit Team Fortress 2. But yeah, it was playable, but frame rate did dip down to like 27 at one point when there were several players on the screen. And frame time, of course, was bouncing all over the place. I mean, it was like from 5 to 30. So it just goes to show that it's an inconsistent experience, I guess you'd say. But it was playable, so it wasn't terrible. Again, this is a game that came out a couple years before this laptop, so it should be able to play it, and it does. Those were high settings again. You'd want to probably put it on medium or something if you really wanted to play this, and it would be much better. So now let's go ahead and try out the other computer here. Alright, so I checked my settings for Team Fortress 2 on here, and I actually have the same settings as I did on the laptop. And it looks like we have a hard time here. Interesting. I wonder what's going on with that. They seem to be doing fine now. We're getting about 108, 100 FPS here, and the frame time is bouncing around a lot more than it did in Source. In fact, it just went up to 26. And it looks like the game just crashed. It froze anyway. Interesting. So it looks like we've had the first failure of our video. It's honestly not something I was expecting, especially not from the desktop. I would have expected that from the laptop. I keep watching it here expecting it to do something, but no, it looks like the laptop wins TKO here from the laptop on Team Fortress 2. Alright, well, I'll move on to the next game, I guess, which will be Fallout 3. So you might be able to guess what the next game is. It's Fallout 3. And I've never played Fallout 3 before, so this will be a new experience for me. So as far as our settings are concerned, you can see we have automatically detected medium quality, and we're setting it to 1920 by 1080. And it has HDR on by default and vertical sync, so we'll see. So right off the bat, I can see here we're going to be locked at 60 FPS, but we can still look at the temperatures and be entertained by that. Alright, so we're actually in the game now. Again, locked at 60 FPS, but the frame time is actually sitting really consistent at 16.6. And our GPU is at 94 degrees right now, so I'm still kind of in this beginning tutorial section, introduction of the game. Again, I've never played this before. I'm sure this game probably gets a lot more demanding as time goes on, but in this little introductory section of the game that I'm in, it's doing pretty good on the old laptop here. It's cooled down to 91 degrees, the GPU that is. CPU is sitting at about 47 degrees. So, yeah, let's see how it does on the desktop. Alright, so you can see my settings here on the desktop. These are the default settings. High settings, high detail that is. 1920 by 1080 of course. Vertical sync and HDR, anti-aliasing and filtering, all of that. So yeah, let's see how it does on here. Alright, so here we are at this part again. So it looks like the frame rate of course is locked again, but we can move around and look around here. Yeah, so it looks like it's about 50%. That's the CPU and the GPU. They both go up to, they're both like right together, right around the same amount at all times. And the GPU's at 72 degrees, nothing unusual. This computer handles this game just fine. I guess it's not the best benchmark game in the world, but it is a popular game from this time period, so we have to try it out. Well, that's about it for Fallout 3. Let's go on to Saints Row 2. Alright, so next up we have Saints Row 2. I'm very interested to see how this laptop handles it. It's giving you the option to continue, which is interesting. I have played this game before, believe it or not, so we'll see what this does. Just as long as we can get into some gameplay. There you go. That's my character right there from before. So yeah. Alright. I'm not positive what the settings are, whatever it sets it to by default. It looks like we are getting 20 FPS. I'm actually very surprised by that. I remember playing this on my old laptop years ago, when that was my main PC, main computer, and this was, we're talking about a laptop that had Intel integrated graphics, but it was much newer than this laptop. It was from around 2015 or 14. So yeah, 20 FPS is probably similar, if not better, than what I was getting with that laptop. So dedicated graphics cards do matter, everyone. Alright, let's see what we can do here. Let's see. Yeah, jack the card. The GPU, I'm more concerned about the GPU, of course, than anything else right now that's going on. So we're sitting at 93 degrees, pretty steady, and the frame rate is bouncing between 18 and 25. But our frame times are humongous. It's jumping up to like 160 from time to time, but the lowest it goes to is like 40. So frame time is horrible. Lots of stuttering, as you can probably see in the video. This would be probably not playable, but it's not as bad as I was expecting. Very interesting. I'm also interested to see how it performs on this desktop computer over here. So let's see what that's like. Oh, now we're in the driver's seat. Now we are in the driver's seat. Alright, oh, didn't mean to do that. Okay, let's take this car right here. Very nice looking car. Looks like we're sitting at a ripe 22 frames per second at the moment. It's dipping down to 18 periodically, jumping up to 24 very, very briefly. 28 actually right now, 28 frames per second. Frame times averaging around 35. So a little bit better than the laptop, but not much. And that's pretty much what I expected. Yeah, you'd have to throw some really, really nice hardware at this game in order to see a big difference in performance. Otherwise, it's just going to be kind of similar across lots of different computers. But yeah, right now again, it's actually, when there's nothing else on the screen, it goes up to like 30 FPS on here. I don't know, I'm not in a very good spot right now, but let's see, our GPU is at 64 degrees, a little bit cooler than what it was in other games, but yeah, again, the frame times are what I'm really looking at here with this game. And it was at, when we were in that mess just then, it was like 48. So that's very bad. And yeah, this game's just generally not a great game. That's quite funny. My hat is cut off in the car. But anyway, yeah, our CPU is being utilized 99% at the moment, while our GPU is at 38%, so that tells you a lot about this game. Anyhow, yep, there's Saints Row 2. I really want to get over these barriers. There we go. That's what I've been trying to do. That's what we want to see. Well, I think it's time to move on to another game. Alright, so here's a GTA 4. We're not going to talk about what's going on that screen. We're going to take a look at this screen here. And you can see I have all the default settings here. It actually defaulted to 1920 by 1080, which I believe this is the first game that's done that. All these games I've freshly installed here, of course, for this testing video. And this one sets some pretty decent. Automatic settings is set water quality to very high, which is interesting. So here's the infamous intro scene. But I'm glad that they have this because it immediately puts you into the game, lets you drive around, which is good for when we are trying to do what we're doing here. So already, I'd like to point out there's a huge input lag right now. I push the button and a little while later, it does what I was wanting it to do. So, getting, looks like frame times are bouncing between 30 and 70. Frame rates all over the place, around 20 FPS, and our GPU is at 101 degrees, so get the fire extinguisher out for this one. And our CPU is also pretty warm, 63, that's about the warmest it's been. Yeah, the frame time is bouncing all over the place. Right now it's going between 40 and like 100, so we're also at 15 FPS now, so yeah, that's good. So we're at CPU usage is at 88%. It's pretty steady. Goes between that and 90, 93. So yeah, GTA 4 not playable on this laptop, unfortunately. So we'll see how the old desktop PC handles it. And again, it actually has the settings set correctly, 1920 by 1080. And it looks like the settings are more or less the same as they were on the laptop. So let's go ahead and get in here, start a new game. Alright, and here we are. And a little bit better experience this time, it would appear. Right now, just sitting still, we were at 40 something FPS. But again, the frame time's not that great. It's bouncing all over the place up to, I seen 34 was the highest, although it'll probably jump even higher than that at some point. And the frame rate, you can see these skips. Hopefully you can see those. Yeah, it's looking like it's not going to be a great experience here. So it's kind of stuttering a little bit. Frame rate overall obviously a lot better. Looks like our GPU sitting at 75, CPU's at 49 degrees, that is. And the percentage is they're both maxed out 100%, bouncing around of course a little bit, but they're both in the 90s anyway. And yeah, the stuttering is causing this to be a little bit too much actually. At times it gets a lot worse than others. As far as just driving around, I'm able to do that alright, but sometimes it does stutter for about a second. So yeah, GTA 4 maybe a little bit ahead of its time, because again this was released a year before these computers approximately were released. Of course this is a custom build, but that laptop is from around 2009. So there you go. GTA 4, very demanding game indeed, but is it as demanding as, just wait for it, as Crysis? Well, we're just going to find out right away. If I can get out of all of this crap, I am going to launch Crysis right now on the desktop computer first, and we're going to just see how Crysis runs compared to these other games. Alright, so after some battling with Origin to get it working, I have gotten Crysis launched. We are sitting at 750 FPS in the menu right now, so just like to point that out. We got the high settings here selected, 9220 by 1080 of course. I can just continue where I was because I played this a little bit before. Alright, here we are in the game. I'm in the middle of the woods right now, and we're getting 34 FPS, and it's sitting pretty darn steady at 34, 33 frames per second. The frame time is a little high. It's between 25 and 35, sitting right around 30 right now. Our GPU is at 99% usage, while our CPU is at 74%, so we are experiencing a slight GPU bottleneck, which is to be expected with the GTX 260. And the GTX 260 right now is sitting at 81 degrees, which I believe is the hottest I've ever seen it run. The CPU is at 50 degrees. And yeah, I mean, what else can I really do here in this game? I mean, you know, it's Crysis is Crysis. It is what it is. And there it is. Look at those graphics. Our frame rate is still pretty steady, around 32, 34. And I haven't progressed very far into the game here, but there we go. I mean, this computer handles it pretty well. I mean, this isn't a competitive FPS game like Team Fortress 2 or Counter-Strike Source, so the frame rate being in the 30s is fine, honestly. You want to get the graphics up, of course, with this game. And yeah, it's not too bad. Now let's see how it does on the laptop. Alright, so I've got Crysis on the laptop here. Humorously, I was able to get this working without even installing Origin on this laptop. I don't have Origin installed at the moment. I just copied the files straight out of the directory, and with a little bit of tweaking I was able to get it running. I ran the 64-bit application as an administrator in compatibility mode for Windows Vista with no service packs. So there you are, and I'm just going to try to get into the game as quickly as possible. Here in the menu right now we're at 1200 FPS, but we will see. Alright, so we are starting a new game, so we're in the very beginning sequence here, but this is pretty demanding, as all of the game is, but this is about as demanding as it gets because we've got other characters on the screen, we've got these cloud effects here, and we're sitting at a steamy 104 degrees on the GPU, first of all, and also 13 FPS. So, yeah, that's about what you'd expect for this game, I suppose. Alright, so here we are on the beach, stepping on the beach at the moment, and yeah, it's about the same really. 13 FPS, 14 FPS, you know the story. We fire our weapons, of course that slows us down a little bit, but yeah, frame time is about 80, so 80 milliseconds. That's pretty rough, and yeah, you can see if I move around here that we've got motion blur on. That's extra nice, makes it extra nice. But yeah, this would probably not be playable. Yeah, definitely not playable. 12 FPS, who am I kidding? Nobody's going to play a game like this. So this laptop, yeah, wouldn't have wanted to play Crysis on this back in the day. Unfortunately, Crysis runs pretty good on the desktop over there, but on the laptop just a little bit too much. CPU is fine, this is 60 degrees, 60% usage, but the GPU again, as was the case in just about all the games, creates a little bit of a bottleneck, a little bit too much of a bottleneck I should say, for it to be playable. So Crysis, not as bad as some of the other games actually. I mean, GTA 4 was just about unplayable because of the stutter. This was at least consistent. The frame times were pretty consistent in the 60s. So, yeah, I can give it that. Well, what more can I say, really? That was a bunch of older games on a couple of older computers. If you enjoyed what you saw, be sure to leave a like, let me know. Leave a comment, join the Discord if you'd like. And I'll see you in the next one. Plenty more content like this to come on older computers. And as always, stay safe out there.